outlaws were gunned down in this four-door Ford sedan, and over the last 65 years, the car has earned millions for its owners. Bonnie and Clyde covered a lot of miles. In their 21-month crime spree from 1932 to 1934, the two desperados and their gang drove from Texas to Missouri and back again, taking time to explore and plunder New Mexico and Oklahoma as well. To throw the authorities off their trail, they frequently changed cars. Or rather, they just abandoned their old stolen car and stole another one for the next leg of their journey. That means Clyde had a chance to try out all kinds of makes and models. And far and away, his favorite car was the Ford.
He did like Fords, and for a couple of reasons. When that V8 was introduced, that was the fastest car on the road. Many a police officer tried to catch him driving, and he just disappeared from sight.
Legend has it that Clyde even took time out from his busy crime spree to drop a note to Mr. Henry Ford himself, praising the automaker's work. Dear sir, I have drove Fords exclusively when I could get away with one. Clyde Champion Barrow. On April 29, 1934, in Topeka, Kansas, the Barrow gang stole a Ford V8 Deluxe. A gray four-door sedan with a form-fitting rear trunk, wire wheels, chrome trim, and a Greyhound hood ornament. The car was almost brand new. It had a little over 1,000 miles on the odometer. The rightful owners, Ruth and Jesse Warren, had bought the car just 6 weeks earlier from the Mosby Mack dealership in Topeka.
The price, it was roughly around $800. I think $795 and some change was how much it was. And I would imagine that was a lot of money for somebody back then.
That was a very good car. It was really about the best Ford made back in those days. Of course, within a few weeks, he would have got another car since he didn't keep him only a few weeks.
But Clyde may have kept this Ford a little too long. Over the next few weeks, the Barrow gang covered more than 7,000 miles in the Warrens' Ford. But the police were closing in. The Barrow gang was held responsible for 13 murders. And the law wanted Bonnie and Clyde's spree ended.
Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, two of the South's worst killers.
On May 23rd in Louisiana, the law won. Bonnie and Clyde were betrayed by a young gang member, Henry Methvin, who described the Ford for police and told the cops where to find the criminal duo. The cops set up an ambush. As the outlaw couple drove the Ford down heavily wooded Sales Road, the lawmen were lying in wait, armed to the teeth. At a signal, more than 100 high-velocity, steel-jacketed bullets ripped through the Ford. The outlaws never even got their hands on their guns.
I regret that we couldn't have taken them alive, but that was impossible.
I talked with the old gentleman who saw the bodies over there, and he said, "Mister, I've never seen anybody that dead." Each of them had been hit 50 times by bullets, plus they'd been cut up pretty badly by the flying glass.
Bonnie was shot right in the face, so her mouth is completely blown away, and one of her hands was blown almost off.
For Bonnie and Clyde, it was the end of the road. But not for the car. Its first duty after the shooting was as a makeshift hearse. Police towed the car back to town with the bodies lying where they fell in the front seat. Inseparable in life, the outlaws were divided in death. Separate funerals.
In life, his very presence would have struck fear to their hearts, but now they fear him not.
Separate burials.
Bonnie's burial was attended only by close friends and relatives, which numbered about 150 people.
With their bodies cold beneath the ground, the car quickly became the object of the public's morbid curiosity and the subject of a custody battle.
The sheriff was not too eager on giving up the car, and he would also take people out there and charge them a quarter a head to see it. He had a regular little racket going on, and the Warrens eventually had to go through federal court to get it back.
But they did get it back, and amazingly, the bullet-ridden car still ran. What had previously been merely misfortune for the Warrens was now a windfall. The couple leased it to an anti-crime lecturer named Charles Stanley, who billed himself as the crime doctor. He charged audiences 10 cents for a peek at the bullet-ridden vehicle while he preached to them his message that crime doesn't pay. The Warrens would probably have disagreed. They sold the car to the crime doctor for $3,000 in 1938. The crime doctor, in turn, sold the car to Ted Toddy, an Atlanta film producer, in 1952 for $5,000.
He had some shoot-'em-up, not at all historically accurate movies that he wanted to promote, and he was going to use the car to promote these movies.
He eventually put the car into an Atlanta warehouse for like 15 years after Warren Beatty's movie came out. There was a great demand to see that car. He took it out on the road for a few years and literally made $1 million off of it in that time period.
In 1973, Toddy sold the car to a Nevada casino owner for $175,000. Not a bad investment. Then, in 1987, the Bonnie and Clyde Ford actually hit the open road again. With a new engine, but with bullet holes carefully left unrepaired and the shattered windows protected by plexiglass, the Ford took part in the Great American Race, a nationwide road rally of antique cars, all of them more than 50 years old at the time.
They put a new engine in it to make sure the car would make it, because that was an old engine. But the car did make the cross-country race in 1987, which was probably about the last time it was toured nationally.
In 1988, the old Ford was finally put out to pasture. The owners of the Prim Valley Resort and Casino bought Bonnie and Clyde's ride for $250,000.